denser and heavier, but it's still a pretty color. There were still pretty things in 3D. There's still beautiful experiences to be had. It's not all dark and dense. Then this 4D or higher density energy came in, and then this is the fifth dimensional frequency, although that's not exactly what it looks like. I'm just trying to be really simple, clearly based on my artwork about what I'm seeing energetically, because this is what I'm seeing really energetically. And these all have incredible geometries, and they're all us, and they're all worlds around us. And it's so, but this is a variation. And so this energy is pouring around us. It's being enhanced by the astrological alignments, planetary energies. It's all connected. The energy from the sun, the energy from the stars, that are the energy that's from the space dust that's sprinkling in through our magnetic field, the energy from inside the earth. You know, as we have solar activity, it increases earthquakes from what we're being told by science. So as that increases, we are then, certain things are exposed. Elements that were inside of the earth are coming up. And this mixes and changes the chemistry and the elemental combinations are evolving. We find new elements that we didn't discover before. And the other message that came through in relationship to this is, it's like, my guides are saying, it's like a book. When you turned the page, we read through this book, and all of a sudden we're going backwards in time, because now these new discoveries are being made. They're not new. They're old. They're old discoveries that we're discovering now that are new to us, but they're ancient. But because we're discovering them, we're learning more about what we didn't know before, or we're remembering more that we may have always known, but now it's showing up for us in physical form to give us more knowingness about ourselves, about our history, about the human body, about our elements in chemistry, all of it. And so I could go into that. I won't repeat the 2 videos that I'm going to share, but that's kind of what the guides were sharing in wordplay. So now we're opening this page. I'm going to repeat this though. And if we realize a page was stuck, oh my goodness, we read this whole book, thought we had it all memorized, and there were pages stuck together. So now we're going back and we're reading what we missed the first time around. And that helps us close out these old chapters. So that's a way of describing what's happening in our emotional life and our, relationships. So everything is showing up for us. Now we're seeing it and we're like, wow, how did that happen? So now we start to understand, but the guides are saying, you're a different person when you read the book this time around. Now you're reading the book and you're discovering pages that you missed, knowing this about ourselves, knowing this about history. And you're also interpreting the past from a different perspective. So now the book reads differently because we're reading it differently. It's like a second grader reading a book. They might only see certain words, and a high schooler reading a book, and now you're, let's say, retired, and you've had all this life experience. So now you read the book that you've been reading since you were a kid, and it's a totally different book. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, what's happening to us. Energetically, as these shifts in the earth occur, it gives us we're morphing into something different. This changes at what I'm being called to go back to distribution. What I kept hearing is we're redistributing the energy. And it's a distribution, I can't remember the word that they used. I'll have to go back but I'll just share that they kind of played with this and described, I was just called to look up at distributive property. So if I use this little map, and so distributive property in mathematics is evaluate what's in the parentheses first, then solve it. So this is old, middle, new. 3D, 4D, 5D. Denser, not as dense, lighter. Right? So we don't have to say these are dimensions, but let's play with that. This 4D is the parentheses. So this is a subset of this, which is a subset of this. So it's a bubble. That's another. There's another bubble out here within a bubble within a bubble. So we're being called to organize within the parentheses, go back into the center, and get our energy lined up, and then solve it. So it's a little bit of and this has to do, by the way, with addition and multiplication. So they were kind of saying, look, we have to add these up and then we're going to multiply. But you can't do that until everything's put together. And they call it the official order of operations. So even though everything seems chaotic, there is actually an order to which it's operating. And I'm being called to play with this for a minute. Okay, math. I will. I don't know where my screen went though. I've got to pull that up. Okay, bear with me. My gosh, you guys. So essentially, and by the way, I'm on khanacademy.org. It's, I think, simplified versions. They're written in rainbow, so I kind of thought it'd be, anyways. So, because I was looking at this going, okay, so let me just read through this. We evaluate what's in the parentheses first, then we solve it. This is following the official order of operations rule that we've learned in the past. With the distributive property, we multiply the number first. We distribute it. Okay, sorry, I said add first. So we're multiplying first before we do the addition. So this has to do with, I'm hearing multiplicity factor, and I'm also hearing time distribution. So this is something to do with time, but we multiply it first before doing the addition. And we got the same answer, 44 with both approaches. You guys, the way that my brain works, 44 is so symbolic. So it's no coincidence that whatever this math was came out to 44, but that's a whole other can of worms. Why did we do it differently when we could have easily worked out what was in the brackets first? This is preparation for when we have variables instead of numbers inside the parentheses. Now, I want to just talk about that. So we're preparing for the variabilities. It's preparatory, what we're going through. This in-between phase is what I'm being shown, because it gives us the ability to operate within multiple dimensions without losing our outline. We have an outline that we can still follow without just all over the place. It's the parentheses that are holding us together right now. Calm before the storm, but the storm won't be so bad because we're learning how to operate within the elements, is what I'm hearing. I'm in and out of flow with this, you guys. So what they're showing me is this is giving us usable and storable information and energy for coming network distribution. I'll come back and play with this later. Okay, what I'm also being shown is it gives us an advantage for the potential energy to use in the future. So we need to do this in this particular order in order to understand our reality, and it gives us an opportunity to fine-tune our definitions, but also to move out of definitions that no longer are practicable, that we no longer wish to practice. It's like, we don't need to practice that anymore. We've graduated. Now we're in this in-between space, giving us more opportunities for growth. So the more we can find this center of compassion and recognition and lucidity, seeing the lucid, being in the lucid dream, without necessarily jumping to a conclusion. We're aware, we're perceiving it. This is during this like portal. We're taking advantage of an alignment system, is what I'm hearing, to get us aligned for the next steps, for the distributing our energies even more potently. And I'm going to get to potency in a minute because that's a big play on words as well. So this way we're not locked into something. It's a practice run, but it isn't a practice run because we're building value, and that's a play on words as well. When we focus something, we're giving it energy, and that gives it value. So this bubble that we're focusing on here, while simultaneously seeing that there's other bubbles over here, it's adding value to this. It isn't necessarily taking away value from that. We're able to see that as that other reality, the lower frequency 3D, our past, as valuable. And we're taking the ingredients that we hold as, I'm hearing a geometric equivalent to a higher domain frequency distribution. We're taking that and we're applying it to our new reality simultaneously at the same time, in the center. Whew. So we're actually learning from this. We're growing from this. At the same time, that overlay is already here. And we're able to simultaneously dissolve the old network, but it's not going to necessarily happen all at once. It's almost like, I don't know how to explain it, but what I'm seeing is we're simultaneously dissolving a piece of this, let's say. So let's say this is now dissolved from the old layer of reality, and it's been absorbed into this and this. So it's not that it doesn't exist anymore. It's changed chemical contrast. It's changed its chemical elemental order of things. So just like when water combines, or when oxygen combines, I'm seeing all these chemical elements and their combinations, and I don't know what they all mean, but let's just say hydrogen and oxygen, for a basic example, combines to create water. And you can actually change the chemical element of water into ice. Once it becomes ice, it changes the composition and the structure, even though it's made up of the same basic model, is what I'm hearing. So we have the same basic model, but now it's just been upgraded. Now, when this disappears, what they're showing me, it gets absorbed into these other coils of energy, and it gets filled up. It feels, when that happens, let's use that as an expression of, like, let's say we go through a breakup and that feels empty. Now this is empty. We feel like something's missing. But we go through a massive understanding of ourselves, and we start to feel into what we want. We start to focus on things that we are recognizing within ourselves, and that gives us value, and that gives us feeling of completeness, and it gives us a bigger sense of who we are. That gets filled with this, and I didn't even draw this, but the orange, that other energy is absorbing all of this. This is just a very single dimensional drawing. But if you picture this, it fills it up. And so it merges, it combines. The emptiness, there's nothing that's truly empty, right? There's energy everywhere. Even in a vacuum, it's pulling it in, right? There's still stuff being pulled in it. But anyways, so it's absorbing that, and it fills that with something different. And this, I'm going back to the play on words. The elements combine to better support the instability or the lack of equilibrium that's felt when the earth shifts. Or, I mean, there's so many different